Hello and welcome to the second episode of Scarlet, Unscripted. And now we are going to be starting a new series called All of the Hate in My Heart, where I attempt to spread a little bit of positivity, a little bit of joy in the coughing 20s. This week's sponsor, as all weeks, is sponsored by, in 2021, red wine. Today, I figured I'd go for a blast from the past, something really positive, because I live in a city that has been in lockdown for 6 weeks. Fun! Anyway, so we're going to be talking about Blues Brothers. Blues Brothers is a really big throwback. It's older. It's a movie older than I am. Blues Brothers, starring Jim Belushi and Dan Aykroyd as Jake and Elwood Blues, pair of brothers, criminals and musicians who discover just after Jake, played by Jim Belushi, gets out of prison. They go back to their old family home, which is an orphanage, and have an interesting encounter with the old nun that runs the place, and then later meet up with their old mentor who taught them the blues. Tells them to go to church. And we're greeted with the first diegetic musical number in the movie. You might say the music on the radio is diegetic, but I'm not here to debate that. I'm not that kind of pedant, so let's not debate about those things. Anyway, we get a song from the late, great king of soul, James Brown, and who tells them to go on a quest. Well, he doesn't. Jake is enlightened. He gets a message from the big man himself to go on a quest to get the band back together and save the orphanage. Because it's the 80s. You can save things with two criminals can save an orphanage with music. This is why I'm doing this show. I'm trying to do positivity in 2021. Ain't that something? So they're tasked with this. Their only way of saving the orphanage. Well, of course, his first instinct is to go steal the money. Naturally, he's a criminal, so go steal the money. And to wit, he is beaten with a stick by the nun. After having his epiphany, it's time to get the band back together. And a few scenes go through. He goes to a fancy restaurant. I haven't seen the movie in a few years, so I don't remember the order of these scenes. But it's joy. He goes to a restaurant. His friend is working as a maitre d' in a very fancy restaurant. Remember restaurants? Remember going to restaurants? No, positivity. We're doing positivity. He goes to the restaurant where his friend is a waiter. He's the maitre d' of this grand fancy restaurant, and of course the two criminals turn up in unwashed, badly smelling suits, and make a bit of a scene. And after which, their previous band member says, "Fine, I'll join you. I'll join the band." And then we enter the first musical number in the movie, where, see, this is the thing. It's such a vibrant, bursting with life musical. And one of the things about it is it's hard to tell what's diegetic and non-diegetic music. And that's sort of part of the magic of this movie. Every other musical, you can really easily go, this is diegetic part of this. This is diegetic music. This is non-diegetic music. In Rent, Over the Moon is diegetic. Every other song, non-diegetic. Really simple line. Singing in the Rain. Well, Singing in the Rain is going to be another video. But anyway, we get to the song Think. They enter a soul food restaurant, and they're going to go pick up 2 more band members, and they're greeted by Aretha Franklin. It's the year 2021. I realize a lot of my generation doesn't know who Aretha Franklin is. She's amazing. I need to look this up if she's still kicking. I need to look this up. She's an incredible talent. Voice of an angel, and bursts into an anthem. Think. Second point, if you haven't seen this movie, this video is, it's going to try and convince you to watch it. Because even after listening to all of this blathering, it's still a hopelessly positive, vibrant movie that you should watch if you haven't seen it. And secondly, listen to the fucking soundtrack as well, even if you're not going to do that. We are all in situations, even now, in this city, where we can find time to listen to a bunch of songs. Please, for the love of all that is unholy, listen to the Blues Brothers soundtrack. There is so much amazing music in this movie, and you should really hear it. But after the musical number is done, getting back on track. Sorry, you'll notice Scarlet Unscripted. There's no script or through line, so I'm going to go off on tangents from time to time. Also, I have no idea how often I'm going to be filming and uploading these things, so... Anyway, after Think, they get the next 2 band members. After that is a breeze for them to get the last handful. They roll in to their last 5 band members who are just playing at a shitty hotel or something like that, and then they're just like, yeah, sure, why not? But we need some music. We need equipment. Don't you just... I miss these kind of movies. They don't make these kind of movies anymore, where one scene, they're just like, so anyway, buddy, I'd love to go join you through the rest of this movie, but first, let's go to the next scene. The video game, take this key and the door for it is in the next room, so they need some equipment. So where do they go to but Ray's Music Exchange with Ray Charles, who runs the place, a blind man who introduces himself by firing a gun at a wall. I said this movie was from the 80s, right? They pick out some equipment, and as they're picking it out, they need to test it out. So of course there's another musical number. Shake a Tail Feather, performed by Ray Charles. If you do nothing else after watching this video, listen to Think and listen to Shake a Tail Feather. I don't care if you do anything else, just listen to those 2 songs. They're amazing. And if you're like me, born in the 90s, and you haven't heard those 2 songs, change that. Right. So they've got their equipment. And after which, you've got a band, you've got your equipment. The movie's over, right? They play a gig, they get the money, they save the orphanage. We've already had 3 acts of movie, right? You've got your initial encounter, you've got your main problem, you've got a big dance number, and then you go into the 3rd act, right? Wrong, baby! This is the Blues Brothers. This is only like halfway into the 2nd act. It's an 80s comedy movie. We're like an hour and a bit into the movie, and we've barely had any action. This is the Blues Brothers. And I'm sure if you've only ever heard about it in passing, you know that it's got some of the greatest car chase sequences in all of cinema. So anyway, after they get their equipment, they're traveling around and they discover a venue. Because the criminals, Jake and Elwood Blues, have lied to their band and told them they have a gig. So they rock up to the venue and pose as another band, the Good Old Boys, and then play the gig. The gig goes okay. I mean, the songs are rocking. The audience warms up to them, and by the end of the show, audience is loving them. They're a great band. They know what they're doing. You know, this is. I'm probably going to say this many times during this video. It's an 80s comedy movie. Everything works out at the end. So anyway, they are off at the end of the gig. They're settling up the check, and it turns out that they've in fact the band has drank more beer than they earned. To all the performers out there in the audience, all the musicians, if you've ever had that happen to you, spent more on the bar than you got paid for at your gig, tell me the story, because I'd love to hear it in the comments. After that, they drive off into the night. And who should arrive after them but the band? They're the good old boys that had actually been booked. They're 2 hours late, or however many hours late. Then the first car chase sequence of the movie ensues. I might be getting my crosses wired, but anyway, the way I remember it, that's the first car chase sequence of the movie. They barrel down the highway, shooting at them. This is America in the 80s. Everyone's got guns and really not afraid to use them. So and then they end up smacking into a cop car. And that's the end of the first chase sequence of the movie. After which, we've got one antagonist introduced. After which we introduce our second antagonist of the movie, where they're driving around and the Blues Brothers encounter a group of Nazis. And these aren't 2021 Nazis, these are 80s Nazis. They're very like, we are actually Nazis. Oh God. You know, sometimes things like Nazis you'd think would like go away slowly, and then you'd realize it's 2021 and there's still Nazis. Positivity. No, we're doing positivity. But anyway, they end up driving through the group of Nazis, and they all jump off a bridge into the water. And there we have antagonist number 2 of the movie. And then we introduce antagonist number 3, and the biggest, baddest motherfuckers in all of Americandom. the United States police force, because they're driving around and they run a red light and they pull over for a moment, and then they instead of waiting for their license and registration to get checked out and all those things and discover that they'd be under arrest, they instead floor it. Because why wouldn't you? And then we get our second big chase sequence of the movie, where they're driving around, music blaring, and they're trying to escape the cops. They drive into a parking lot for a mall, and they're trapped. Presumably. What can you do? You're being chased by the cops. You've driven into a parking lot. What can you do? There's nothing, right? You have to give up. Except it's the 80s. And structural integrity wasn't a thing. Structural integrity especially wasn't a thing in 80s comedy movies. And there's a brick wall right there. And they drive right through it. And into the mall. And through a toy shop to get there. And wouldn't you know it, the cops chase through them. So they're barreling through the mall and the cops are chasing them. And the chase sequence ends with the cops' car flipped over and the Blues Brothers getting away. Now we're entering pretty much the third act of the movie. They get themselves a gig from their old agent, saying, I can get you a gig in 3 days, or however many days. Very little time. It's like the next night. So they have 2 days to fill a theater of 4,000 people for $2 a ticket. Can you imagine can you imagine two things? One, filling a theater of 4,000 people in 2 days. Well, maybe that's possible with social media and everything, and, people following celebrities' tweets. I'm sure there are celebrities who could do that sort of thing, but unknowns could never fill a theater of 4,000 people in 2 days. But secondly, they're charging $2 a ticket. Oh, how times have changed. If I could see a show for $2, I would be questioning why I'm seeing a show for $2. Anyway, a nice big montage ensues where everyone's publicising the show. Everyone's there. You've got all three of our antagonists find out about it. The good old boys, the Nazis, and the police. And they all show up. And the Blues Brothers know they're showing up. So they have to sneak into the theatre, all stealthy. But they're late. So there we have our next musical number of the show. Minnie the Moocher. And it's our fantasy sequence of the movie. Everyone's costumes change, the lighting changes, the theater changes. And at the end of it, we change back to reality for the nonsense at the end of that song. If you want to find out the nonsense at the end of that song, you're going to have to either watch the movie or listen to the soundtrack. Positivity, people! I'm trying to spread some joy into your lives. So after that, we have the two songs performed by the Blues Brothers. We have Everybody Needs Somebody to Love and Sweet Home Chicago. And 90% of the way through the second song, they leave. Because they know that the three antagonists of the movie are all there waiting to kill them. So they get in their car, they meet up backstage with a music producer who hands them a huge wad of cash, and the solution to their problem's there. Orphanage is saved. All they need to do is get this huge wad of cash and, go to an ATM, deposit into an ATM, and then, wire it through. Done. No, guys, this is the 1980s and not 2021. They have to take this huge wad of cash from one side of the state or country or wherever it is to the other, all while being pursued by drunk rednecks, Nazis, and the police. And then we have the single greatest car chase scene, in my humble opinion, in all of cinema, where you have 20 minutes, I don't know how many minutes, you have lots of minutes of a really, really great car chase scene where they're flying all around, all of the cop cars smash into each other. There's some great shots, and then they finally make it to the building where the money needs to go. And then they finally make it into the building where the money needs to go. And by then, all of the police have called SWAT teams and helicopters and tanks and nukes and everything in to catch these two guys. Sometimes you wonder where all the police funding goes, and then you watch movies like this and you're like, you know what, this seems logical. And they finally make it up there to the 13th floor. I'm saying 13th floor because I don't remember the exact number. They take the money, they pay the guy, and as soon as they pay the guy, all of the police come in there and slap some cuffs on them. Slap some cuffs on them. And then the movie's over, right? Fade to black. No. One last musical number. A amazing cover of the late, great Elvis Presley's Jailhouse Rock. Because that's where they all ended up. In jail. Because it's that kind of movie. You start as criminals. You try and save an orphanage. You play a gig. And then you wind up in jail. This was a positivity video, right? Anyway. So, for those of you who've seen the movie, you might have noticed I've completely forgotten the subplot that runs throughout the entire movie. And I might have. But what better time than now than to go into the subplot? So all throughout the movie, we have been where the Blues Brothers have been dealing with rednecks and Nazis and the police coming after them. They also have to deal with one other foe. Princess Leia, trying to kill them. With C4 first, then a flamethrower, then finally an M16. I don't know about you, but if Princess Leia tried to kill me with a flamethrower, I'd wonder what I did. Turns out he ran out on their marriage. Their wedding. You know what? Some douchebag ran out on my wedding. I'd hunt them down with a flamethrower too. God, is that how we're ending this video? We're ending it with, I would hunt down someone with a flamethrower? That was all of the hate in my heart. Next week, I'll be talking about something completely different. But if you like the video, yeah, there'll be more of me rambling and nonsense. I've been Scarlet, and I'll see you next time. Next time. I'm not doing the finger guns. I don't like the finger guns. But we're doing them!